RVers love tips, and we've been sharing a whole lot of them in the pages of Trailer Life and MotorHome magazines for a long time.
So we have gathered a bunch of these together, some of what we think are the best, and a few that are quite unexpected, I have to admit.
The other day I was cleaning out my garage and I found a bunch of stuff that could be reused.
And that's what quick tips are all about, taking everyday things and using them for maybe not so everyday purposes.
Absolutely. Let's go get started and do a few.
Okay.
So you get up in the middle of the night, it's pitch dark, you got to use the bathroom, you go inside, you turn on a light, just like this one here, which is a double fixture incandescent, and boom, you got this glare in your eyes, and it's hard for your eyes to adjust, both going in and out. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put an LED light in one of these lenses here, so you don't have to use the bigger lights. Now the process is pretty simple. The first part of it is to take the light down from the ceiling. Now that's real easy. You unscrew the 6 screws that are holding it to the ceiling, and there's a connector that you just have to disconnect and you pull it out. And once you have it out, you take it to a bench and you start the process. So now what we're going to do is we're going to install an LED light. Now there are a number of these that are on the market. We just happen to pick a super bright blue because we don't want it to be too bright. And this one's already got a resistor built in, so this is going to be a 12-volt LED, so there's not much we have to deal with because it's a 12-volt system. And we're also going to use a switch, and just a little micro switch like this. You can choose whatever fits inside the lens here. So the process is pretty simple. We're going to start by figuring out where the light's going to go. Now, we have to consider that we have a light and a fixture in here right now, or a socket in here right now, and so we want to work around that. So we're going to take it to the side here, just about like this here. And it's real simple. All we're going to do is we're going to start by drilling a hole where our LED light's going to go here. So start with pilot holes because you don't want to crack the lens. Okay, once you get the pilot hole in there, I'm going to take this one out and put in the drill bit. Now this drill bit's pretty close to the size that we need. Okay. Be real careful, especially you don't want to go through your table. And you can see that didn't take much. Now we're going to just step it up one more time. And we're going to take the larger bit. You want to be real careful here because it's easy to crack this lens. Okay, let's see if I can clean it up a little bit. Okay, I think I'll clean it up by hand first. Okay. What's this here? Not a whole lot to do in this. I just want to make sure that it's okay. Let's just see if I can clean the hole up a little bit. Okay, so we have our hole here. Now, it may not fit precisely. If it doesn't, we'll have to take a file to it, which we'll probably end up having to do anyway to clean it up. Let's see what we got here. Okay, we're going to need a file so we can open up this hole a little bit. So before we get to that part, let's get the switch in place so we can do both at the same time. The switch obviously we'll take a smaller bit. We're going to do the same thing, take a pilot bit here so we don't have to gamble with cracking the lens. Okay, so switch can go anywhere where it's clear. Pretty much going to do the same thing. I'm going to put it on the opposite side here. About the same distance as I had before. I'm going to eyeball it. You could use a tape measure if you want, but in this case it's pretty simple to eyeball it. Okay, got the pilot hole in there. Now this drill bit probably is close. It's probably going to be enough, but we may have to take a file open a little bit. Actually, I could probably open it up. There it is, it's perfect. Okay, we're going to have to open up this hole a little bit. We'll use a round file there. Fortunately, it's plastic. We're going to clean it at the same time. We're going to clean out all the burrs here, which is what we need to do anyway. Shouldn't take too much. Let's see if we're getting any closer here. We're there. All right. So we're going to install the light into the lens. All it is, just push it down, snaps it right in. And there we go. We're ready for the switch now. Switch will be very easy to put in. First thing we'll do is we'll put the nut onto the switch so we can regulate how much of this this shaft here will be showing. Okay, let's see what we want here. I think I'm going to be okay here, but it may need a little bit more. So what I'll do is I'll adjust it. I'm going to check it for fit temporarily here. I'm just going to put this on here temporarily. Put it back onto the fixture. Make sure that I've got clearance. And I think we're good. So take this thing out. All right, so we have our switch in place. Now I'm going to take it apart and put the lock washer underneath it so it'll stay in place more permanently. Take this down just a turn. Use the lock washer. This nut back on. Okay. Take the pliers and just a little bit tighter. Let's see, how do we want to do this? We want to make it so it, there we go. That works pretty good. Now, the nice thing about it is I put the switch in first because I'm going to need, since I don't have a vise here, I'm going to need something to hold on to keep the switch up like this so I can solder on the wire. So it's pretty convenient by doing it this way. All right, so we're ready to roll. And all we got to do is wire it up. And that's a pretty simple procedure here. Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to run the black wire through the base here and hook it up to the existing wiring that came from the motorhome. And then we're going to take the red wire, we're going to put it through the switch. So the switch basically is an on-off switch. So we'll take the red wire, we'll go to one terminal here, and then we're going to take it to the other and run it through and hook it up again to where we started, where it was connected from the motorhome. So, I mean, this is not much of a science here. We're just going to, give myself a little bit of slack here. Cut the wire right here. Okay, I've stripped the wire here so I can solder it to the switch. I'm going to use a little shrink tube here so I can cover up the terminal so there won't be any problems with shorting. Just cut a little piece here and put it on the wire first. Okay, I'm just going to solder the end to the switch. Sometimes you might get one that's solderless, but most cases you're going to end up with this kind of a situation. So I'm just going to put some solder onto the terminal itself. And I'm going to tin the wire itself. Okay. That should be pretty simple. I'll let it cool down for a second. Okay, now we got the one side done. Now I'm going to take some red wire, and this wire here will go from this switch here to the harness that came out of the ceiling. So I guess I'll give myself a little slack here. I can always cut it. Okay, I'll do the same thing here. And I will strip this back. And I'm going to also use shrink tube on it, but since I have an open end here, it's not much of an issue. So I'm going to go to the center terminal here, which should work right here. And do the same thing here. Now it'd be nice if I had a little bit of a vise, but we're just going to make do here, and we're going to improvise. Okay. We'll do the same thing with this wire here to the center terminal. Okay, there we go. All right, so we got both wires soldered on. And you see that fairly simple process there. Okay, add a little bit more shrink tubing to the other wire. Now, chances are you don't have to use a shrink tubing, but you know, we come from the school of that it's always best to keep things insulated and make it impossible for having any kind of a shorting problem. Okay, so now this is one way to do this. You have to be very careful. I'm using a creme brulee torch here to heat the shrink tubing. If you have a heat gun, it's a better way to go, but you just got to be careful here. Okay, so you just got to get a little heat there. This is pretty hot, so you don't need a lot. As you can see, you don't want to get too close. All right, we got the shrink tube on. All right, now we're ready to run the wires through the fixture here, and then we're going to hook up to the back end here. So we'll just run this wire through. There happens to be a hole here. If you didn't have an access hole, you can always run it through by drilling another hole in it. In this case here, we didn't have to do that. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to put it right back in place here. And there you go. We're ready to wire up on the back side. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to solder because I've got an easy way to do this. I'm going to use some butt connectors. I'm going to cut these wires here and restrip them, and then use a butt connector and just connect the wires to two wires to one butt connector. Be a pretty simple process. So in this case, the black wire here is the 12 volt or the hot wire, and the white wire is the ground. So we're going to use the black as the ground, and we're going to cut this wire here. Now let's think about this. You got to want to make sure that you have some room here to run this connector through. So I'm going to take it down pretty close here. In this case, I'll just use this here to cut it. And strip back the wire. In this case here, I'm going to use a blue terminal because I can get over both these wires pretty simply. And we're just going to use a blue butt connector. And I'm going to put right over here. And I'll crimp it. And I'm also going to do an insulation crimp. Okay. And we're going to take this wire here, strip it back, put it into here. Okay, put it into there. And we're going to crimp it. Insulation crimp. It's always best to have an insulation crimp. Becomes like a strain relief. Do the same thing on this side. Cut the wire. strip the back. We don't need a whole lot of wire here, so I'm going to cut this right about here. Strip it back. Twist these wires. Use another blue butt connector. And insulation crimp. Especially when you're using two wires like this into one butt connector, it's nice to have an insulation crimp. Okay, I'm going to take this piece here. This will go in here. Okay, we're done. All we have to do now is reassemble this on the ceiling and test it out. There you go. Storage in any RV is at a premium, so we have to be very creative in making use of all the nooks and crannies. And there are a lot of things we can do, but here's one that kind of works neat. It's a hook. We take a hook rail and we're going to take advantage of the inside of the cabinet doors. So here's a hook rail that I'll mount right here. Keep in mind that this can go anywhere. You can mount it here, you can mount it here, you can mount it anywhere that you desire. Now, in this case, we're going to use a hook rail to hang things that we use on a daily basis, hair dryers, keys, flashlights, or anything that makes sense that you need to have, immediate access to. Now, we already measured here, so we know that the hook rail will clear when it's mounted on the inside of this cabinet door, but it will not mount using the existing holes that came from the factory. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug these up, and I might as well do that right now, with these decorative caps. So cover up those holes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to measure and drill at the ends here, and we're just going to use a shorter screw to go into this cabinet door. Now we want to go into the meat of this cabinet door, right at the frame here. If we try to screw into the center here, and that's where the existing holes would have put us, the screw would just go right through the outside, and we don't want to do that. So here we go. We're going to mount this one, well, right about here. Now again, it's not critical. In our case, we want to hang a hair dryer, so we want to make sure it's going to clear the shelves in the configuration that we have them. And now these shelves can be reconfigured to accommodate the hook rail. So let's go ahead and set this thing up. I figure I'm going to mount it just about here, and since this is 16 inches and I've already measured that the door is 17.5, so I've got to give myself 3/4 of an inch on each side in order to center this thing. So I'm going to mark about the place where I want the height, and then I'm just going to take and go 3/4 of an inch on each side here. Well, actually, I don't even need to do each side. One side would be fine. I think that's pretty close. So I'm going to drill holes into the end of the hook rail to accommodate where it's going to be the center of the frame. So again, I'm going to take it back up here, and I'm going to take it right to the end there. I'm probably going to want to go right in the center. So we're probably looking at something about, right about there should work. And I can actually take it even down lower if I wanted to. And it would be 6'1". I think I will take it down a little bit lower. So again, we're kind of designing on the fly here. What's nice about this kind of stuff, you can be very creative, and there's nothing, there are no instructions here. You can do whatever you want to do. So I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to drill a hole right through this section here. And I'm going to mount it first and it looks like just about right there. Okay, the tape. I want to measure down the same place. So I've got 4 1/4. And it should be right there. Okay. About the same place, right about there. I don't want to go through the door. Okay. Okay, make sure it didn't go through the other side, and it didn't. And this looks like it's going to be okay. So, hang things like hair dryers and keys and anything else you want to put on the hooks. And it should be able to close nicely, and it does, which is perfect. But we're not done. We're going to install a basket on the bottom to take advantage of the bottom part of this cabinet door. I'm going to use a stacking basket. Now, there are a number of configurations out there. You can get stacking type baskets, or you can get the baskets that are actually designed to be mounted on the wall. And they have very specific brackets. You can get them they're narrow, you can get them tall, you can get them, the sky's the limit. You just go shopping and figure out what you like. In this case here, this basket will fit pretty nicely right on the bottom lip here. And I'm actually I'm going to use these nylon wire clamps here to secure it to the wall. Now, they're not designed for that, but we're gonna kind of be a little bit improvising here. So, okay, so I'm out of an extra hand here, so I'm going to kind of center it. I'm gonna tape it up just to hold it there while I do my thing. Okay, let's position the wire clamp. Now, I'm gonna use 1/2-inch screw. This is a recessed door. It's got a 1/2-inch width to it. And by the time we put the 1/2-inch screw through this the clamp here, I think we should be okay. So very carefully. Okay, now, there it is. Didn't go through. We're in good shape. Do the second one here. Okay, that's in place. And then we're just going to do one on the bottom here just to keep it from moving around. So. This might be a little tough. Now, I could use an extension, make it a lot easier. Okay, there you go. Take the tape off. And you can use this basket for any number of things. For instance, I had tape here handy. You can put tools here, flashlights, anything that you need to have access to on a daily basis. And should close, no problem. There you go. So now we've made most use out of space that's never used. Okay, wouldn't it be nice to have a water faucet right at your rig when you're hooked up in a campground? Well, you can easily do that with a 1/2-inch water faucet like this one here and a few fittings. And let's put it together here. So when we're done, we're going to hook it up to the city water hookup on the side of this rig here. So the first step is to take some Teflon tape and on the threads. So we'll do that. Pretty simple process here, very inexpensive. Okay, we just have 3 fittings that we have to get topped with some Teflon tape here. I think that'll do it. And just one more. This is a very simple project. This is probably the hardest part of the whole thing. Okay, so once we get the tape on, okay, it's very simple. First we'll hook in the faucet to this T-fitting here. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure that that this part here is pointing down in the same direction as the faucet is. So it's going to be, you know, one of those deals where you don't know if you're going to have enough turns, but it looks like I can get there by hand. I'm not going to force it. So, okay, I think that's actually pretty close. I think that's pretty tight, and I think that's going to work well. Okay, now the part that's going to go into your city water hookup is this one right here, and this is actually a faucet, a hose fitting at the end. Okay, take our okay, it's tight. And we're going to use this one here. This is what we're going to hook our hose from the hookup to this right here, so we have water flowing to the rig. Okay, then we're going to just use a quick disconnect setup for the hose right here. And we're ready to hook it up to the city water hookup setup. If you find yourself with a really dirty rig and you're in a campground where they won't let you wash them, which is most campgrounds, here's an easy way that you can actually kind of beat the system a little bit, but and not use too much water. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a standard garden sprayer, which you use for, you know, your lawns or shrubs or anything else like that for putting chemicals out, and filling it with water or soap and water. In this case, I've got a little bit of soap with some water, and all I need to do, pump it up. Okay, once I get it pumped up, then I can spray the side of my rig. And like I said, there's a little bit of soapy water in this thing. Take a rag, loosen up the dirt. Then of course I would empty this thing out and I would have fresh water in there, clean water. And then I would go ahead and spray it again. Now, as you can see, I've used very little water. So most campground operators will not cause you any problem with that. Now, if you want to reach the top part, all you do is you take this nozzle, open it up, just like that, and it'll allow the spray to extend to the higher areas. There you go. Real simple. Then you just take a rag, another clean rag, and simply dry off the sidewall. It's real simple, it's real inexpensive, gets the job done, and you're being very environmentally conscious because you're not using a lot of water. If you've ever washed an RV, you've probably used a brush with a telescoping handle on it, just like this. So it's the only way you're going to be able to reach the top part of your rig without climbing up on a ladder. Now, the downside about that is you get this thing all full of water and soap, and you're sitting there washing the sidewall, and all that soap and water comes down the pole here, gets into your sleeve, down into your armpits, and it's really uncomfortable. So here's a way that we can kind of solve that problem using a used, or I should say an empty, soda bottle. And these plastic bottles got all kinds of good uses for them. So, okay, first thing we're going to do is drill a hole in the bottom of this soda bottle so it'll fit over the large portion of this pole here. Now, we're going to use a hole saw and just start by drilling the hole. Okay, now we've got our hole. Now, while it's somewhat still put together here, we're going to cut off a section. Now, this is pretty much personal choice. I figure, let's just go about halfway here. So we're just going to cut it in half right about here. I'll use the scissors, it's a little bit easier. Okay. And once you get it started here, it's pretty simple to cut. Just make your cut all the way around. Now, you don't have to be perfect here. If you could get it kind of even, fine, but no one's gonna sit there and check you out on it. So, okay, it's close, not too bad. Now, what we'll do here is we'll take off the brush and see where we're at. Now, it won't fit over the largest portion of this pole here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the torch here and we're going to just kind of heat it up a little bit, and then we're going to force it on. So let's get a little heat going here. Now, it doesn't take a whole lot of heat because, this torch, which is a creme brulee torch, as you know, puts out a lot of heat. So we're just really going to just kind of soften a little bit and then drive it right over, just like that. Okay, perfect. Okay, now, a couple things you can do here. You need to keep it so it'll stay in place. And the other thing you need to do is you want to keep the water from leaking out of the edges here. So, a simple way to do it, if you want to have instant gratification, is to take some, just some typical electrical tape. And I figure I'm going to put this thing down about here because I want to be able to have a way to grab the inner pole here. So I'm just going to lift it out of the way, and I'm just going to wrap tape around it like this until I can take up the space, the gap here between the pole and the hole in the bottom of the soda bottle. So it's kind of like a little bit of an experiment here. And right like this. Okay, now it's pretty solid in there. It looks like it's sealed. You're not going to have a lot of water pressure here, so it's really not that critical, but you can run a bead of silicone around the edge here if you really want to make it more permanent. Okay, I'll reinstall my brush. I'll open this thing up so I can reach the top part. And what I'll do is I'll simply get myself some water and soap. Get the brush nice and saturated and take it up on the wall. And then the excess water that runs down the pole, you can see it coming down now, will be trapped inside here. As you can see, it's trapping it, and my sleeves are perfectly dry. So there you go. So RVs are equipped with these gutters that's supposed to take the water that runs off the roof and keep it from running down the sidewalls of the RV. Now, in order to keep them from staining the corners here, they'll put a little bit of a downspout, just like this one here. Now, these things work most of the time, but something like this small, if you're off level a little bit, it's still gonna, the water's still gonna come down the sidewall of the RV. And as you can see here, this one's already been doing it. So here's a tip that actually solves that. You don't have to do much at all. Just get a plain Jane clothespin and do this, and you're done. Now, doesn't look like it's gonna do much, but we can test it. So it's not raining, and we'll probably have to stay here for an awful long time before that happens. So I'm gonna create some water here. So I'm gonna just pour some water down here, up here actually. And there you go. It's not even touching the sidewall. See that? Perfect. And you thought it wouldn't work.
One of the world's greatest inventions for RVers is the backup camera. Easy, right? One drawback, when you're going down the road and you go through dirt or dust or rain, it gets really dirty and you can't see out of it. So when you stop, you have to clean it. Now, one of the ways to clean it is to obviously climb a ladder, but I'm going to show you a way to do it without having to climb anything. And that involves another great invention, 3/4 inch PVC pipe and a baby bottle brush. Now, all you have to do is cut the pipe so that you can actually reach the camera. And then you get a baby bottle brush. Now, you'll notice that we had to cut the end off of this one so that it would fit into the end of the PVC pipe. And then you're just going to take a screw so you can put it in there real tight. So let's do that now. There we go. See? Stick it in the end there. I got a self-tapping screw right here. Put this back a little bit. There we go. Now all you do is put it in the water and clean away. No ladders here.
So you might think that Fun Noodles were designed as a pool toy, but in reality, for an RVer, they're one of the most versatile products ever designed. And one way that they really come in handy is to protect the windshield wipers on big motorhomes. Now, these guys are not cheap, and when they stay exposed to the sun and the elements and the pressure up against the windshield remains constant, over time they deteriorate, and as a matter of fact, they can deteriorate much too fast, and therefore, end up buying them too quickly. So here's a way to get around that. Just use a Fun Noodle, okay, and protect them. Now, the job is pretty simple. Okay, all you do is you come over here to your windshield wiper here. This is not an exact science, so I'm going to do it about right there. I made a mark right here. All right, they cut pretty easy. I'm just going to cut it at this point here. Okay, I got one section here and I'm going to use for the windshield wiper. And then I'm just going to take it here, make a slice right down the middle. They cut real easy. Okay, just open it up. Okay, installation only takes a second. So there you go. Protects the windshield wiper, keeps it off the windshield, lasts a whole lot longer. A lot of RVers use filters to keep the water not only clean but also much more drinkable, because you never know what kind of water you're going to get when you're traveling throughout the United States and Canada. So there are a couple ways you can do it. Some people have onboard filters, but most of us use an external system, and I like to use a sediment filter and a purifier, but the problem is they're pretty big and they get kind of bulky and hard to handle. So I've come up with a way to mount them into a box, a milk crate that makes them really easy to handle and very stable. You can put them almost anywhere. So not too much of a project. Actually, it's a lot of fun to do. So I've got my milk crate here, and I'm going to temporarily put the two filters together using this nipple and a couple of fittings so I can measure where they're going to go into the dairy crate. Okay, once the two filters are connected temporarily, I measured where they're going to be set into the crate, and so using a marker I just measured around the base of each one of them. Because these filters are different lengths, okay, I'm starting with the longer one first, and so I'm going to cut the hole so this will fit all the way to the bottom of the crate pretty much. And I put the filters in the position they're going to go into the crate, and then I wanted to verify that the markings are still correct so I can cut out the hole for this shorter filter. I made the initial cut for the second filter, and I had to be very careful here because you don't want to make it too big, because this actually has to snug up so it doesn't go all the way into the crate, so it stays at the same level as the bigger filter, which does go all the way into the crate. So a couple times back and forth, doing a little trimming, finally got it to fit properly. Once I was happy with the way these two filters fit into the crate, I removed them from the crate, and then I disassembled the fittings again so I can actually this time put Teflon tape on them so I can have a permanent connection. Once the nipple and the fittings were tight, then I had to tighten the body of the filters with the special wrench that comes with the filters, and then once that's done, I set it back into the crate. Next step was to put the outer fittings on, which would be the inlet on one and the out on the other. And so I used the Teflon tape again and put the fittings in, and I had to use some adapters so I can get to the point where I can hook up a hose to each side. The one on the right side here, the one on the purifier, as you can see, it required quite a few adapters. It's possible to probably use fewer adapters, but this one worked pretty well because we wanted to get to the point where we can use the quick disconnects. With all the fittings in place, I just lift the crate. Filters stay in a real secure position, move it as close as I need to be to the city inlet on the motorhome or trailer or fifth wheel, and I connected the hoses again using quick disconnects, which really make it easy. Now you can shorten the hose between the filter and the city water inlet to the rig if need be. You have a couple options here for storage. You can either just disconnect the hoses and lift it all in one piece and put it inside of a storage compartment, or if you need to, you can pull the filters out, lay them down flat, and then store the crate elsewhere.
RVers love to repurpose things, and here's a real handy idea for keeping your chemicals and your cleaning supplies organized either in your cabinet or down in the bay, or just a handy way to carry them around with you as you're cleaning. All you need is a 2.5 gallon water bottle. Now drink the water. Everybody should drink water every day. And then when it's empty, take a box cutter and we're going to cut the top off. Now make sure you leave the handle on there because it's a great way to carry it. And now we're going to do the other side. This top a little better. Perfect. And you just put your cleaning supplies in there. I could take 6 bottles with me anywhere I need to go. And the great thing about this is, if you mess up the cut, just drink more water.
So Murphy's Law says that if you need to retrieve something from your basement compartment, it's going to be too far to reach. Okay, now I've got 34-inch arms, and it's typically 48 inches to where my, items are that I need to retrieve. So, okay, what I did is I went, scouting around at a hardware store, and we found this telescoping pole here that's really designed to change light bulbs in fixtures that are too high to reach. Okay, it's not designed for what we're going to use it for, but here's what we did. We actually, with a little ingenuity, we went out and got a couple of hooks. We got a smaller hook here, and then we also got a bicycle hook that you use typically in your garage. This pole here comes with a couple of adapters for different size bulbs, I guess. So what we did is we took the one adapter here and we put a dowel in it. We just drove a wooden dowel into it to fill the space. And then we put it up here on the pole itself. Okay, and you can actually tighten it down here. And then we took this smaller hook and just screwed it into the dowel. Now, as simple as you can get, and I'll tell you what, this is going to save some tempers and flare-ups and not having to dive into your storage compartment. Okay, so, but the one I really like is I took the other adapter and made it work with the bicycle hook. Now, I just screw this on. There's a little bit of a lock down here, and then just screwed in the bicycle hook. This is typically used to put on a rafter in a garage or on a wall so you can hang your bicycle. But it makes a great hook. So there you go. So now I've got my retrieving tool, and it works pretty simply, like this. Perfect, and I don't have to dive into the compartment.
Changing an oil filter can be troublesome, even under the best of circumstances, but especially if the person that put it on before over-tightened it, or you really don't have a lot of room to maneuver. So here's a really easy way to help you out. Just get a piece of sandpaper, cut it down to size, doesn't matter which grit, what grit. Wrap it around the filter. Get your filter wrench, put it on, and there you go. The grit supplies you with a lot more torque than it would if it was just the wrench. Very simple. When you store your rig, you of course are also storing your refrigerator. And when that door is closed, a lot of the odor from the things you've kept in the refrigerator can really build up. And if you store for any length of time, that can be pretty noxious. So here's a great tip to stop that odor. And the main ingredient is coffee. Now there are two schools of thought with this. Either you use fresh ground coffee or you use fresh coffee grounds. So new or used, put it into a container, put it into the refrigerator, make sure you put one in the freezer as well, and those odors will be absorbed. There you go. Camping can be a messy business, and we're always using paper towels. Now here's a handy way to keep those paper towels outside instead of having to run in and out of the rig all the time. And it's very simple, and you can take it off and put it back on so you don't have to do any drilling on the side of your rig. So all you need are 2 suction cup hooks, of course your roll of paper towels, and some string. Now we're going to use some nylon string. First thing you do is measure how much you need. That looks about good. Cut that off. Now, tie a loop into both ends. Now, because this is nylon, you want to burn the ends so that it doesn't unravel. There we go. There we go. Now, we're going to put this 1 suction cup on the RV. Measure with your string to see where the other one will go. Just put it about there. Voila, handy paper towels for any mess that may happen. Now that we have our handy dandy outdoor paper towel holder, you've got a second problem, and that is wind. If the wind starts to blow, sometimes the towels will unravel. And also on the inside of the rig, you have the same problem in that the vibration from traveling down the road will make the paper towels unravel. So here's a couple of tips to stop that from happening. Now on the inside, this isn't a great one for outside because the wind has a problem with this as well. But on the inside, just take an empty paper towel holder and lay it on the top there. The weight will keep the towels from unraveling. On the outside and the inside, you can also use a clothespin. Just take the pin and put it on the end there, and that will stop it from unraveling. And our final idea, and I like this one the best, is just a push pin. That ain't going anywhere. There you go.
So here's an easy way to see if you're getting power to your trailer brakes without having to move the trailer. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to use a simple compass here. This is just an inexpensive compass that you can get anywhere in a sporting goods store. Now, the way it works is that the trailer brakes operate with electromagnets. So when power is applied, and that would be through the brake controller, the compass will react to the electromagnetic field. So let's try that. What we're going to do is we're going to put this compass about 3 or 4 inches below the spindle, right on the wheel, and then we'll have somebody just push the lever on the brake controller so we get full power. And if there's power and if the brakes are working, then this needle's going to jump. So let's try it. Okay, hit the brake controller. Okay, off. Hit the brake controller again. As you can see that the needle is moving quite a bit here, so we know that we have power to this wheel. Off. And all you have to do is repeat that for all 4 wheels and you're good to go.
As many of us have found out the hard way, climbing on your RV can get very slippery when it's wet, especially on things like ladders and steps, bumpers, roofs. So we've got a great solution for that. Anti-skid tread tape, and this is how it works. First, you want to clean off the surface, i.e. the rungs of this ladder, so that the adhesive will adhere well. I'm using mineral spirits. Okay, take your anti-skid tread tape, measure the length, cut it off, peel the back off, wow, that was so easy. You're not going to slip on that. Now, this product is great for any surface on your RV that you step on. For instance, the steps into the RV. If you have a fifth wheel, the bumper, great place to use this. Also on the roof, although you don't want to ever use it on a rubber roof. Happy climbing! Bubbles are not just for children anymore. They're also great to find out if you have a leak in your propane line. Very simply, take a toothbrush, dip it in the bubbles, and apply it to all the connections along your propane line. Then inspect it thoroughly. If you see any bubbles, you've got a leak. Picture the scene. You open your door, it's nighttime, you go to leave the RV, and you can't see the stairs. We've done it. We've all done it. Same thing happens on the way in. It's really hard to see those black stairs. So I'm going to show you a really simple thing to do to make it easier. All you're going to do is paint part of them white. So all you need is painter's tape, paint, paintbrush, and off you go. First thing you do is cut a strip of the tape to go all the way down the side of the stairs. Yep. Want to get it straight. Now this particular stair has a yellow reflective stripe on it. I'm going to leave that on there because it's reflective as well. So here we go. Make sure you got a nice, good edge on that. All right, got some white paint. Okay. There we go. Give it a little stir. And we're ready to go. Now I have cleaned these stairs. Make sure the stairs are clean. You don't want dirt and all that kind of stuff to paint over that. So here we go. Now I'm going to paint along the edge here. Now this takes care of the view coming down the stairs. I'm going to make sure that I paint the side. In case you're approaching from the side. And then we're going to paint the front edge as well. I'm going to go around and get this other side here. And there you go. Now when this dries, we're going to take that tape off and you'll see. You can't miss that stair coming or going.
Using a two-part adhesive leaves you with the dilemma of finding a place or something to mix the two parts in. And so you either use a piece of cardboard or maybe you use a lid to some kind of a container. In either case, it's always messy. So here's an idea that makes it really easy. So if you get an individual serving of a creamer, coffee creamer, and pour it in your coffee and have your morning coffee and clean it out, and then you can use it for mixing and it works like a champ. So all you got to do is take your two-part adhesive here, and here we got the hardener and the resin. You put it into the creamer cup here, and then you just mix it up. And you're ready to apply it in any kind of any project that you're working on. Now, just keep on drinking lots of coffee, and you'll have your coffee stirrers and your creamers. You can make lots of epoxy. Here's an easy way to fly your flag on your roof rack or your ladder. This is a fishing rod holder that is typically used on a sport fishing boat. You put it on the rail of the boat, you put your rod in there, and you wait for the fish to get on. So in this case here, we're going to take the same holder and we're going to place it onto the ladder, the rear ladder here, and then put our flag right into here. So, okay, the first step is to take the part of the bracket off so you can position the holder exactly where you want it, so the flag is positioned the way you like it. In this case here, actually that's pretty close. So I'm going to lock, once I get that position, I'm going to lock it down. And as you can see here, it just uses an Allen wrench, and there's a screw, set screw in there. So, all right, now to put this thing on, I'm just going to take one side of it and just temporarily position it, just like this. As you can see, this is a very simple installation. Now, one thing you want to be careful that you mount it to the outside of this railing here, because if you mounted it inside, as you can see, I'll just turn around for an example here. If you did that, you'd have a problem with having a place for your feet. So, okay, once we get it probably around center there, and this could go anywhere. This is just personal taste. If you want your flag to be up real high, you can put it to the top part of this thing. If you want it a bit lower, you can mount it lower down below here. So we just kind of take a middle ground on it. And simply tighten the screws. Again, use the Allen wrench. Okay, that's pretty tight there. And I'm just gonna snug this one. Okay, you don't have to be killer tight. Get your flag, and roll it, and just put it in the holder. And there you go. And you're flying your flag. It's easy. Take it down at night. Real simple. I don't know about you, Jerry, but I had a lot of fun putting together some of these tips.
Me too. You know, and I have to say, I learned some stuff today. I love quick tips. We solved a lot of problems.
And I got rid of a lot of stuff out of my garage.